host if I'm going to. Okay, and the second thing is you have to give Patrick the screen because I don't have that control either.
And I think I have the ability to share my screen, so I think we're
Okay.
Good.
Yes.
Let's see here.
So we would like to welcome Patrick, and this is going to be a little different from some of our previous webinars in that this is going to be very interactive. You, the participants, are going to be the students, and Patrick is going to be your teacher, and we're hoping that by actually letting you experience what he's doing, that will be much more meaningful to you. And if you do need a professional development certificate for this presentation, if you'll just please email us training@cambridgelatin.org, we'll make sure that we get you that certificate as soon as possible. So Patrick, welcome and have at it.
All right, everybody. Well, we're not going to do a ton of Pear Deck, but I've got some questions throughout. So if you can log in and then you can experience the presentation through the Pear Deck, that would be great. And I'll just give you a little bit of time to do that. Thank you very much for the introduction. We're going to look at teaching a stage today. And we have in the past, we have done webinars where we've gone kind of right from the beginning all the way to the end and really mapped out everything. I'll give you just a little glimpse of how I would teach this stage, and we're going to look at stage 4. But the focus really, and this is really in reaction to the questions and everything that we saw over the summer in our workshops, is most of what we're going to talk about is those model sentences and how to deal with those model sentences, and also just dealing with one of the stories here. We're going to look at that Hermogenes story. So let's see. Let's maybe go back here. Hold on a second. Here it is. There we go. So, because it looks like there's 9 of you in there. So we'll give you 9 a chance to, or the rest of us a chance to log into that Pear Deck. So you're going to joinpd.com, and then you're typing in this OHKDLC. Earlier today, Pear Deck, really like all today, wasn't working. So if you were having trouble with it, maybe just hit refresh, and ultimately, if you find that you're having trouble with it, it's not that big of a deal. But it would be good to have a whole bunch of us in there sharing the answers. I'm glad to see, I think we have colleagues from all over the place. I see a couple of my Georgia colleagues. Hi, Lori. Hi, Brian. And I see some familiar faces from other workshops. It's great to see everybody. Well, we got 14 of us in there. That's a good group. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit start class. And maybe we can put that join PD. Actually, I'll do that right now. Joinpd.com in the chat, and then OHKDLC as the join code, and that's in the chat there. So here we go, everybody. Let's take a look. Like I said, we're going to look at stage 4.
Funny, because I've been listening to Patrick Yaggy. Like, this is the guy who I.
Uh-oh. Well, there we go. Okay, good. Okay, so we're gonna look at stage 4 today, everybody. And you all who have taught this before, you know that this is where Hermogenes makes his entrance. This is about money. This is about lies, deception, and hopefully a little bit about justice. And that's the big piece that
We just freeze.
Yeah, I have no sound.
Oh, Patrick's frozen from my end.
Me too.
Ironically, I'm the one with the. Okay, you were frozen. So if you said anything important, you need to repeat it.
Oh, okay. So not sure when I
go back to the other slide. All you had basically said was, we all know about it if we've done this before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. So yeah, it's stage 4, and it's money and lies and justice. I always try to tell my students, tease it a little bit and say, it's about deception, and we're going to go to court here, and will we get some justice, and try to get the students to buy in a little bit on the front end of the stage. But if you feel comfortable, I'd love it if you turn your camera on, and then we'll have a period where I really want, as your teacher and you all as my students, I'd love for you to just shout out answers, and we'll have a little chorus call and response there, and get the blood flowing and get the brains moving here at some Latin. The first thing that I hope that everybody does, and I've been teaching out of Cambridge for, I think, 16 years, 17, 18 years, something like that. I still go to the teacher's edition, and I still look at this blurb that's here at the beginning of every stage, because it anchors me and shows me, okay, when with everything else, this is just what I need to make sure that I teach my students. So I'm looking at the storyline here. I'm looking at the main language features. And of course, in this stage, we're talking about first and second person singular. And we're talking about sum and s included in that. So, a really typical statement, question and answer in this stage is quid tu blank and ego blank, right? So quid tu pingus, ego leonum pingo. And we're looking at those sentence patterns too, of those questions, and then looking at really, again, just the storyline here. So Caecilius lends money to a Greek merchant, Hermogenes, who doesn't repay him. And so he's taken to court by Caecilius. So I'm operating kind of in looking and framing the whole thing just really quickly. I'm operating under the assumption that we're looking at teaching Latin 5 days a week, 50-minute class periods. And so we have a pacing of about 8 to 10 class periods. And in my classroom, we call it a do now. I used to call it a startup in my earlier district I taught at in Georgia. But the kids come in and they get to work on that do now. And then we have our main lesson, and then we recap. And I have really tried to commit to just not giving my students homework. So trying to do everything in class that we have here. So you can see here's the basic rundown of like a 10-day plan. But the thing that we're going to focus on today, and this is really, I think, when teachers new to Cambridge are trying to grapple with all of these really great resources and the layout of everything, the one big mistake I think that everybody makes is that we don't pay attention to those model sentences, the cartoons with the captions that are at the beginning of every stage. Those are the most effective teaching tool in the entire stage, everybody. The most effective teaching tool in the entire stage. So I challenge you with your teaching this year, spend a lot of time on that, and hopefully you'll see what I mean. And I got to tell you, when I remember being at the University of Georgia, and I was a graduate student, and I had just graduated with my undergrad. I was doing education work to get my certification, and we looked at all of these different textbooks. And everybody, I didn't have Cambridge. I used Yaggy in high school, and then Wheelock in college. And I remember looking at those cartoons, opening up a Cambridge book, the red book, for the first time, and looking at those cartoons. And I was like, what is this nonsense? This is ridiculous. Look at these cartoons. That's so babyish. That's so whatever. Come on, that kind of thing. Well, here I am. I don't want to admit how many years later, but it's the most important part of the stage. And it's the part that you really should be trying to plan out, like, sentence by sentence, and really spending a lot of time looking at how you use these to your students' advantage. Okay. In the teacher's edition, this is what you see. These are the model sentences. This is the new language feature. This is some new vocab that you're going to see here. And I'm not going to read this to you. You don't even have to read all of this, but I just want to focus on a couple of ideas. And the biggest one is repetition. So anytime you're talking about a foreign language, learning a second language, you, the teacher, you've got so much greater mastery than your students. And the good rule of thumb here is that, in terms of repetition, is that that you've hit the right amount of repetition for your students when you feel like you've repeated things too much, right? You've repeated things ad nauseum. And that's probably about the time that your students, it was just enough for most of them. And I'm hopefully going to reinforce that today. When we look at those model sentences, so again, here's stage 4. There's a lot going on here, okay? And I really want to emphasize this. You have the review of vocabulary that the students already know. And one of the reasons that I like these stage 4 model sentences is that it capitalizes on the vocabulary from stage 3. So, you know, you've got Grumio and he's cooking there in the kitchen, and you've got Caecilius and he's an Argentarius, and you've got Pantagatus and he's a tonsor. Well, in stage 3, it was like, you know, Pantagatus barbam tondet. Sipax servum vendit, right? It was the third person singular, but you had all of that vocabulary. Well, here you have the same situations, the same people, the same vocab, but we are now modeling the first and second persons for the verb. So I think it's brilliant. I love it. But the other thing that your students are going to need is just a character review. There's so many characters here. So just make sure that you review those with them, that you don't jump straight into the language feature, that you review that vocab, you review those characters, and that you acknowledge that there is some new vocab here. Now, probably if your classroom's like mine, you know, they've heard sum and they've heard to and they've heard ego and those kinds of things, but you really do have to just kind of assume like, hey, this is all new to them. And so I'm going to really try to hit those words a lot. And the same thing with those structures, everybody. Second language acquisition is about input. So the more input, the more examples that you can give your students, the better. And so again, hopefully we can model that. Okay, so everybody, are you ready? Okay, everybody, ego sum magister. Okay, ego sum magister. And you all are my students, tu est discipulus, tu est discipula. And I really want you not to be shy about this, okay? So if you ever are inclined to turn on your camera, please do that now. And I want everybody to unmute, and I want you to say Salwe. 1, 2, 3.
Salwe.
Salwe.
We don't care about delay.
Oh, amo. I love it. Okay. So gratias vobis. Okay, so this is wonderful. This first part, if I'm the teacher in my classroom here, this first part is really kind of a quick thing. It's just really running through. So omnes, and again, unmute. Quis est omnes? Quis est in pictura? Who is that, everybody?
Grumio est.
Grumio. Yeah, well done, everybody, right? And what kind of person is Grumio? Qualis vir est Grumio? You know, is he like pater? Is he mater?
Coquus.
Coquus, very good. Servus, good. I was
Servus.
hoping I'd hear servus too. Coquus, excellent. Bene, everybody. Okay, omnes quis est?
Grumio est.
Caecilia.
Caecilius.
Ita, yeah, Caecilius est, yeah, and everybody, Caecilius est pater, but he's got some money. Does anybody remember that vocabulary word that we learned just last stage? But I mean, you know, it's a tough one. Does anybody remember?
Argentarius est.
Oh man, oh that's wonderful. And hey, everybody, in my classroom, we really try to support each other, and we give each other snaps and claps and stuff. So if you feel so inclined, you can do that. Of course, I see that you are doing that already. But there's the but there is the clap function. Like you can do the virtual clap. So do that and lift each other up. That's awesome. And so Argentarius, Caecilius est Argentarius, bene factum, bene responsum. Okay, omnes, a little bit harder of a question, a difficult question here. Quis est, the guy standing up, not the guy sitting down. We actually don't know who that guy sitting down is. Who's that guy?
Tonsor est.
Oh, wonderful. Tonsor, Pantagatus est tonsor. I love it. You all are such good students. Of course, I know that you know all the answers. Okay. All right. Omnes, quis est in the foreground. Quis est.
Sifax.
Ah, bene.
Venalicius.
Bene,
Yeah.
gratias. Yeah, Sipax est Venalicius, right? So Venalicius, remember, he is a slave dealer. I think the last time we saw him, we were in a harbor. And does anybody remember who the slave was that
Melissa.
Melissa. We weren't sent there to buy Melissa, but we did. That's right. So we're going to see Melissa in a little bit. But there's Sipax. Sipax is Venalicius. Okay. And omnes quis est?
Heller.
And do we know that that's Keller? Like, do we know that his name? Because I think he's just given as Poeta.
Oh,
But
Poeta is-
Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, Poeta est. That's good. Bene. All right. Quis est.
Clara, pictor.
Artifacts.
Clara, bene, and artifacts. Very good. Now, in the 4th edition, if you had the 4th edition, this was, I think, Jenny, wasn't this Keller that was
Yes, that was
painting?
Keller.
That's right. Yeah. So Clara est and Clara est artifacts. Okay. All right. So everybody, again, like that's old news, right? We knew that that was from the stage before, but maybe not to all of your students. Okay. Now in the pair deck, I'm hoping that you can drag some numbers to when I kind of go through these here. Okay. So in the pair deck here, everybody, we're going to take a look and let's do number 1. Okay. So number 1, I'm going to give you the sentence, ego sum artifacts. And I want you to drag your 1 to whoever you think the artifacts is. Okay. And in fact, I'm going to pull up my dashboard here. And see if our 1s are working. Uh-oh, it's saying it doesn't load. Is it working for everybody? Give me a thumbs up in your camera if it's working and you're dragging.
For me.
No.
Okay, and Jessica, you're saying no?
No, I have a 4 moving around, but I can't move the 1.
Oh, that's odd. Yeah, I don't know, I can't.
I might just be doing it wrong.
That's
Drop
okay.
the 4 and pick up the 1.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. Like I said, Pear Deck had some trouble today, and I just tried to open the window where I could see everybody's responses, and it said it couldn't. So I don't know. But that's all right.
Having a
Okay.
bad day.
Yeah, it's having a bad day. So hopefully we put it, ego sum artifacts, and we put the 1 here on Clara and painting the Leo. All right. Let's try number 2. Okay. For number 2, everybody, ego sum argentarius. Ego sum argentarius. Quis ego sum. And hopefully you put the number 2, you floated the number 2 over good old Caecilius here, Argentarius. He's the money man, the banker's guy. There you go. Number 3, everybody, let's try that one. Ego sum venelicius. Ego sum venelicius. Quis est venelicius? Ego sum venelicius. And hopefully you put that number 3 here, right? In hoc pictura. All right. And number 4, last one, ego sum tonsor. So hopefully we're grabbing that number 4. And we're putting that, let me try this one. Let's see.
Looks like it's doing it.
Loading up. See, there we go.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. That's okay. That's all right. Hey, we're teachers, right? So we just move on. We just charge ahead, right?
monitor and adjust.
That's right. Okay. So again, everybody, that was just review. That was just getting the vocabulary here. And we talked about different people here, and everybody, omnes spectate, omnes in pictura, es grumio. And now Grumio's talking to everybody in this picture, and he's saying, ego sum coquus, ego canam coquo. And so, in stage 3, we had grumio canam coquit, right? And so it's ego canam coquo. Now I bet this crowd knows. Everybody unmute. Tell me, what does that ego word mean?
Hi.
Means I. That's right. Now do me a favor, and I'll hold you to it. I'll help you remember. Every time you read or say the word ego, I want everybody to do this. Okay, I'm pointing at myself. Okay, can you do that? All right, everybody, let's try that. So ego.
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 You got it. And ego canam coquo, right? You got my bowl here and I'm cooking. Ego canam coquo. Okay, omnes ego sum argentarius, right? Caecilius is talking here. Ego sum argentarius. Ego cuniam habeo. I think earlier, remember it was calculus numerat pecuniam, and here he just habeo a pecuniam, ego habeo pecuniam. And so here I have some money. All right, here's Pantagatus. I love this picture because it's ego sum tonsor. Okay, so he's a tonsor, so he's got his blade, and ego barbam tondeo, right? Not crines, barbam tondeo. Ego barbam tondeo. All right, and then good old Sipax here. Sipax says ego sum venelicius, ego servum vendo. All right, and here we go. Ego sum poeta. Remember, we didn't have a name. We should give this man a name. Give this poeta a name. Does anybody want to chime in the chat and give him a name? I always let my students give this poeta a name because he's never named. Let's see. No names yet. Lil Nas. Wow, coming out hot, Alexandra. Okay, coming strong, Alexandra. I like it. Okay, Lil Nas est. Lil Nas est poeta and poeta dicit ego sum poeta ego versum recito, and Clara est in pictura, and Clara dicit ego sum artifex ego leonem pingo. All right, so here we go again, everybody. Let's drag those numbers, and this time we're not going to say ego sum. We're going to focus on what they do. Okay, everybody, number one, I want you to pick up that one if you can, and you're going to drag it. And the number one is ego barbam tondeo. Ego barbam tondeo. Where are we dragging that one, that red one icon? Hopefully we're dragging that over here. All right. And number two, pick up that two icon, ego versum recito. Ego versum recito. And hopefully you drag that over here to our poeta, to Lil Nas. And number three, ego servum vendo. Ego servum vendo. And hopefully you drag that to over here. And then ego pecuniam habeo. Ego pecuniam habeo. And hopefully you drag that number four to good old calculus. Okay, so can I step away from the teacher role for a second and be the kind of the third party and just talk about a couple things that I did? One is that I tried to focus on the vocabulary that I thought my students would have a hard time with. So, you know, like tonsor would be tough, whereas artifacts, I think we can hear the art in artifacts. Really, I haven't paid attention to grumio very much because I think we know grumio a lot. And then really remember that my goal here is just for my students to hear the structures over and over and over and over and over and over again. And if you, everybody, feel like I'm doing this, like, okay, come on, Patrick, like we get it, right? If you're feeling it that way, then that means it's working, because that means that for your students, it's probably just the right amount of repetition. And then you do more. But for us, if you're kind of bored at this point, that probably means that, you know, I'm doing a good job because I'm giving you the right amount of repetition. But really, truly, I hope that you're not very bored at this point. Okay, so everybody, we have the second part of the model sentences here, Quintus. And Quintus here, everybody, Quintus is so nosy, right? He barges into the kitchen and there's Grumio, and he asks Grumio, hey, Grumio, quintu coquus. Now, if I'm Grumio, I'm going to be like, go away, I'm cooking, leave me alone, ego coquo, right? But Quintus is going, hey, quintu coquus. Okay, so everybody, what did I ask you to do whenever you heard or whenever you said ego? What did you do? Okay, good. So I'm going to add something to this, everybody. Now, whenever you hear, so we're going to be busy with our hands. We're going to be very Italian. Okay, everybody. Whenever you hear or whenever you say to, I want you to do this. Okay, so I want you to point at me because you're pointing at to, you're pointing at you. Okay, so everybody, quid tu coquus.
Quid tu coquus.
Oops, he froze again.
Oh,
Ego canum coquo, right? The next one.
Ego.
That's right. So quid
Canum
two, ego coquo.
Two, ego. Two, ego.
Oh, we're back. Okay, I'm so sorry. I guess I got frozen
We did
again.
it
huh?
without you. We did
Yeah.
it
What-
without you. We
what do you
pointed-
need?
We said two coquos and pointed this way, and ego canum coquo and pointed that way. All
What
right.
do you need me for? That's good.
No,
That
we do
reminds-
need you.
That reminds me, a couple years ago, I had my seniors, and I had just a massive headache. I get like these migraines, and they come on real quick, and every once in a while. And I got one, and they were like, "Mr. Yaggy, we got you." And like some of the really smarty pants kids in the class, like just taught class. It was amazing. It was amazing. I took a picture of it. It was so amazing. So thank you, smarty pants students, for teaching the
Can I
class
ask
while
a question?
I was gone.
What do
Yeah,
you-
sure.
What do you do? Like, we're all teachers, and obviously people are quickly answering you and even making sentences where maybe a kid wouldn't. But like before, I said me instead of ego. What do you do when someone, despite your best efforts, really doesn't get it? Do you
Yeah.
just tell them the answer, or do you work it through with them like you did with me with poeta?
Oh,
What
yeah,
I
yeah.
said.
So I think so much of what we need to do is not correct, but model. You just model the correct, right? Like you're not like, no, you're wrong. It's not me, it's I. And here's why, because me is the direct object and I is that. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that at all. You just say, oh yeah, right. Me, it's I. Yeah, I. Ego means I. That's really good. And you just model the correct answer. And of course, we're a little limited by the virtual thing here, but a lot of what I do in my classroom is that I have whiteboards, and so we can, work with those whiteboards and things, and so we can go around and I can see how everybody is individually doing. But yeah, I think modeling is so important. And remember, everybody, we're still in the phase where it's day one, and we're still just getting that input. So your students are absolutely going to make mistakes, and if they didn't, then you wouldn't need to be there teaching them. And so you're kind of counting on that, and it's just about modeling and just about giving that input. And what I'm really hoping is that already you are hearing kind of this sort of sing-songy ego coquo, ego wendo, ego recito, right? The o, and making that connection between those two things, right? The ego and then the O, first person singular there. Notice too, the other thing that I haven't done is you've never heard me. I mean, I said it just now as like your colleague, but as your teacher, I haven't once mentioned the words like first person or second person singular, right? That's not what this is about. It's about cementing these structures in. But yeah, modeling, just modeling. Congratulating them for giving it a good go, congratulating them for basically getting it right, and then modeling the correct answer. So yeah, absolutely. So back here, everybody, to this kind of second group of model sentences, right? We have Quintus talking to Grumio and asking him, quid tu coquus, and Grumio says, ego canum coquo, probably like, get out of here, kid, leave me alone, ego canum coquo. Okay, Lucia bothering Caecilius. Look at Caecilius's face, everybody. He is like, what are you doing? Leave me alone. And he's like clutching the money to his chest, like, you're gonna steal the money. And Lucius going, hey, quid tu habes there, Dad. Caecilius is going, ego pecuniam habeo. Right? He's going, no, ego habeo, not two habes, ego pecuniam habeo. Right? And here's Quintus kind of like very distanced and very sort of like, separated from, and he's being nosy again. He's come on into the shop here, the barber shop, and he's going, hey, quid tu tondes. And the tonsor, Pantagatus, is looking at Quintus like, well, what do you think I'm doing? Ego barbam tondeo, So Quintus again, quid tu tondes? Ego barbam tondeo. I guess, not credes, right? But barbam tondeo. Gosh, here's Lucia again. Now she's in the harbor, everybody. How did she get there? She was so fast. Good Lord. Goes over to Sitbax, right? Goes over to our Wenelichus, and she says, hey, Sitbax, Salve, quid tu vendis? And Wenelichus, of course, Sitbax says, ego servum wendo, right? And now, gosh, Quintus, I guess he's in the forum. I don't know. He's all of these kids. I think Caecilius needs to have a better handle on his children, but he's running around and he finds the poet, right? And he says, hey, quid tu recitas? And the poet's like, what do you think I'm reciting, right? Ego wear some recito. It's a wear some, you know, a poemon. Ego wear some recito. Lukia's back. She's got an apple now. What is going on, everybody? Quid tu pingus. And, you know, if I am Clara, I'm going, what do you think I'm painting? Look at the wall, right? Leo, ego, leon, and pingo. Gosh, okay. So everybody, here we go. And you can draw on the slide. So you can just circle, all right? So what do you think is the proper question if Quintus wants to be really nosy again? Would he ask her quid tu vendus, quid tu pingus, quid tu tondes, quid tu coquis? And I'll give everybody 5 seconds to highlight or circle. And then on the count of 3, I want everybody to say it out loud. Unus, duo, tres.
Quid tu
Pingus.
Quid tu pingus. Gratias, everybody. Gratias omnes. Quid tu pingus. You got it. All right, everybody. Same thing. I'll give you 5 seconds there to circle the right answer. All right, everybody. Tres, duo, unus.
Quid
Tu tondes.
Quid tu tondes, everybody. Bene. Yeah, everybody. That's great. Quid tu tondes. Quid tu tondes. Awesome. Okay, everybody. Try it again. 5 seconds here to circle. All right. Tres, duo, unus.
quid tu coquus.
Quid tu coquus. Omne. Hey, plaudete omnes. Plaudete. Great job. Great job. Great job. Quid tu coquus. All right, that's awesome. All right, we got one more. And hopefully by process of elimination, we figured this out, right? Everybody, tres, duo, unus.
Quid
Quid
tu vendus.
All right, quid tu vendus. You got it, everybody. Well done, well done. Now we got Metella. Look, I mean, no wonder the kids are nosy. Look where they get it from. Look at this. She's, hey, Ankala, hey, Melissa, quiz S2. Hey, Sitbacks, quiz S2. Hey, Tonsor, quiz S2. She's everywhere. Quiz S2. Who are you? Who are you? Quiz S2. Who are you? Quiz S2. Who are you? Quiz S2. And of course, Melissa says, well, ego sum Melissa. And Sitbacks says, ego sum Sitbacks. And Pantagatus says, ego sum Pantagatus. So there we go. All right. So what question would you ask these characters, everybody? All right. Now, hopefully, I'm hoping that you kind of see the flow of what I've done here. Most of what we have done is just really recognition, right? Or producing one word. But now, everybody, I'm going to ask you as your teacher to produce a question. And if you have counted up, which I really hope that you haven't, everybody, you have counted, oh gosh, I've asked the same question about 30 times. Okay. So I would love to hear, what do you think is the one question, if I ran into every single one of these? Write your response here. What is the one question that I could ask every one of these characters? What do you think? And I wonder if someone could put the answer in the chat too, in the chat of our Zoom meeting here. What is the one question that I could ask every single one of these characters? What do we think? And we might even have a couple different answers. Quiz S2. Hey, Alexandra, you are my star. Where is Alexandra? I'm looking at my pictures over here. Alexandra, you are my star student today. Gratias Optima. You are my Optima Disciplina. Alexandra nailed it. Quiz S2. Or, oopsie, Baker. Baker, I knew it. You're showing off now, Baker. Yeah, Baker says August. Good job, Pistor. Yeah, quid tu August. All right, so quiz S2. We can ask all of these guys. Quiz S2. All right, now let me ask you this, everybody. What question could I ask number 1? And you can type that into your Pear Deck response. So what's a question that I could ask the guy in number 1? And I wonder if Lori, would you mind unmuting? Could you tell us out loud, what would you ask the guy in number 1? What do you think? Sorry, Lori. Uh-oh, she's still muted. Oh, there you go.
I'm going to ask him, quid, why can't I do this on the spot? Quid bar,
So he's got that pecunium, right?
Oh, which number? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, did I say number 1, right?
I don't know. I just wasn't looking at the number. Okay.
Oh
so
yeah, number 1.
quid habes? Two?
Oh man, Lori, everybody snaps for Lori. Well done, well done. Yeah, quid pecuniam habes, right? Quid tu pecuniam habes. Yeah, I was a bad teacher just now. Or yeah, tu pecuniam habes. That's good. Good. Okay, everybody, in number 2, and you can write that in your Pear Deck slide. What's a question that we could ask Grumio there? You know, we said, hey, quis est tu? And Grumio probably said, well, ego sum coquus, ego sum Grumio. And what's a question that we could ask him? You know, what is he doing? What do you think? What do you think, Martha? What could we ask Grumio?
Yeah, UBS.
Oh yeah, Ubi, where are you? I like that. Yeah. Does anybody know where Ubi est Grumio?
In Colina.
In Colina. You got it. Very good. Okay. That's great. I love that. Ubi est in Colina. Yeah, that's great. What if I asked him like, you know, what is he doing? How could I ask him in Latin, like, are you cooking dinner? I wonder if does anybody remember what that is? Are you cooking dinner? I wonder. Does Ginny know?
I'm trying to get back into my Pear Deck. Yes, I do.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. It just, are you cooking dinner? Tu canam coquus?
Oh man, everybody snaps for Ginny. That's cool. Very good. I like that. And then of course we got number 3, we got a poeta, and everybody think about that. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to think about this. What question, like, what are you doing? Something like that. Give you 5 seconds, and I just want you to unmute, and I just want you to say it out loud. Quinque quatuor tres.
Quid versum recitas?
Oh man. Quid versum recitas, or tu versum recitas? Yeah, tu versum recitas. Are you reciting a verse? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Now look, everybody, we you know, I mean, I know we were kind of playing up the part, but that was much harder, wasn't it, than what we just did? But that's okay. You know, it's part of that process here. Okay. So, you know, we have this as well. And I've gone ahead and I've put the ego in here. And so we can go through, and Lucia is still curious. She's still nosing in everybody's business here, right? And so this is an opportunity for my students, you, to say, you know, ego pingo or ego leonem pingo. And I'm really trying to see if that O kind of stuck, you know? I'm really trying to see if that O really stuck with the ego there. And so, you know, you can do that if you want to, but I'm going to give us a second here and go on to the next slide. All right. Now, look, like I said, you know, you're probably going, okay, Patrick, you know, I get it. You know, that was a lot of repetition, but I really do want to reinforce that those cartoons, right? Those model sentences are worth you spending all that time on. And I love, and thank you, Martha, for like giving me that other question, because, you know, it really does give me a chance to branch out and try some new things with them and really acknowledge, like, yes, that's a legitimate question. You weren't reading my mind, but I love that. And it couldn't let us kind of take that in a new direction. It also gave me a chance as the teacher to show my students that, you know, a lot of the students in the class probably knew that that wasn't the question that I was asking for, but it gave them the signal that, you know, I'm not going to be like, no, you're wrong. That is not correct. And so I really do encourage you all to spend a lot of time with those model sentences. And go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to say, the other thing you did is I know you call them cartoons, but they're really drawings or depictions. Yeah. And you made a point of pointing out parts of the drawings and asking them about them. You know, they're not there to fill space. They're there to provide information. Mm-hmm. And the student should be able to come up with a certain amount of conclusions by looking at the drawings, whether or not you ask questions, but by you modeling that they're important, it sends to them the message, these are something I should pay attention to.
And the other thing I wanted to add is that just reading those model sentences from page to page, they may seem really simple and boring to you as the teacher, but did you notice how Patrick really put his own spin on every single one of those images, and he really hammed it up. He really just got into it. I mean, he really made those drawings come to life. And that's really what it takes to get the kids involved. And that's really the whole point.
And
Yeah,
you didn't say, what's the correct translation? Or take a moment and write down a translation. You know, and if it was obvious to everyone, you made it obvious. You applauded that obviousness. If it wasn't obvious, you worked around again so that they would have another chance to interact with it.
Right. And
I think that's so important.
yeah, and translation, everybody, is such a meticulous skill, and that really does need to be at the back end of what we do. If we are going to reinforce those model sentences, maybe on the second day or maybe later that period, I want to do something with my students where it gives the students a chance to take control over those structures and over those kinds of things that we're saying. So we might start with this activities master worksheet, where you're just simply circling, well, are we saying pingo or pingus? And that's a very straightforward skill. You see the two there. And so do we remember, is that O or S there? And there's ego, is that O or S? And so it's that very straightforward skill that we're double checking before we go into an activity where I'm asking them to take ownership over those phrasings. When we do that, and I feel like everyone's got a pretty good handle on that, we're gonna do either, I call it a mime game, where basically we go around the room and someone mimes an action. Now, it might be that I gave everybody a card with a different action, and so they've looked at the card, or they just, came up with something on the spot. But maybe the action that they're doing is like, you got money and you're holding the money like Caecilius. And so you can do this a couple ways. You could say, hey, the thing that we're looking for is, 2S Caecilius, right? Like that's what we're looking for. 2S sitbacks, 2S Pantagatus, that kind of thing. And then we would do it another round where I'm asking 2 Pecuniam habes, and we're just working with those same structures, right? We're just repeating what we did the day before. So that's the mind game. And then another one, and my kids tend to really like this, is that I give them a card with a character's name on it, and they all have to, so they all are a character, but they all also, I give them like 5 minutes, and they have to go around the room, and using only Latin, they have to figure out, they have to find 4 different characters. So if I'm Caecilius, I've got to go find a Grumio, a Sitbacks, a Clara, a Melissa, and I have to do that by going quis S2, and the person says ego sum Sitbacks, that kind of thing. And then we can do it again where we only work with the jobs, right? Where you say quid tu agus, and the response is ego leonum pingo, those kinds of things. And so, and then we report back, okay, hey Patrick, who did you find? And Patrick says, oh, well, Ginny is Sitbacks, and this person is that person, this person, that person. And we just have fun with it. But it gives them an opportunity to just repeat those same structures. And I do want to say with these, it's important that you try not to get too creative with Caecilius and what he's doing. You just want them to repeat the same exact things that they heard the day before or earlier in the period, because again, you want to cement those structures. You want them to hear the ego O and the 2S. You want to have them do that. And
The
it
whole
gives
point
them,
is to lay the groundwork for sentence patterns, and
That's
so that
right.
they can expand them. No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
They can expand those sentence patterns. Sometimes in our desire to reveal all, we feel better for having told them more, but we've just muddied the waters. They need to really practice, and so that when we get to the next thing, it just seems natural that these things have been built upon. Like I noticed you didn't make any fuss about the accusative ending. You just really expected them on 2 stages later to understand Leonum and Pictorum and whatever else we had.
That's right. I mean, essentially, you're turning a phrase or you're turning a short sentence into like one giant vocabulary item, right? So we're not worried about an M. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how you do
It's
it.
really
That's how you,
true.
yeah. So we're looking at the first story in the stage, and it's the Hermogenes story. And again, I want you to go back to the teacher's edition. I've done this more times than I can count, but I still go back to it and look at it. And just like with those model sentences, I think it's really easy to just, hey, let's all translate the story, and then we translate it, and then we move on. And I want us to get away from that. And I want you to read these stories with your students, and I want you to read them multiple times. I want you to not use this as a vehicle for a grammar explanation. I want you to use this as a story, and I want you to enjoy the story. I want you to ham up the story. I want you to get the kids invested in the story, but I want you to not think of it as just, well, this is just an exercise that we use to illustrate grammar. It's input, input, input. We're going to see plenty of egos and twos and all of those kinds of things. And by the way, everybody, I'm still asking my students, even when we read these stories, whenever they read or whenever they say ego, that they're still doing this. Like I try to keep this up the entire stage, like the 2 weeks that we're on this, that we're still doing this or this for 2. And then I want them to think about, well, what's going to happen in the next story, because I want them to get buy-in on that. Okay, so again, repetition and using it and not using it just as a grammar exercise, but just getting them into the story. And the best way to do that is when you can, if you have the Elevate subscription and you have the videos that are on there, the reenactment videos, boy, you got to use those, because they are just, I mean, wonderfully awfully wonderful. The production value is second to none. The acting is 7th to anybody. It's just amazing, everybody. So you got to do it. And if you've never seen them before, I wonder if I can just play just a little bit of it.
Oh,
and
definitely.
I'm hoping that the sound will come through. So let's try first. Is it coming through or no?
No.
Okay, let me unplug my headphones and see if you can just pick up the ambient noise then. How about now?
Caecilius in foro agentariam habet. Hermogenes et forum venit. Hermogenes est mercato Graecus. Mercato navem habet. Mercato Caecilium salutat.
Ego sum mercato Graecus. Ego sum mercato probus. Ego pecuniam quaero.
Now I'm going to fast forward just a little bit here because I want us to see the end, because I always like the look on Caecilius's face, everybody, when Hermogenes splits.
Mercato pecuniam capit et e foro currit. Eheu Hermogenes non revenit.
Oh, wait, sorry. Wait, here it is. What? Where'd he go? I just love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, let me put my headphones back on here.
Patrick,
So
may I ask
this
a question?
gives the kids.
Great. Can everybody hear me? Give me a thumbs up.
If someone wants to ask a question.
Oh, okay.
When you were saying in the previous slide that you should read it, what do you mean by that? When it says read the story, first reading, read the story.
Oh, gotcha. Well, in this instance, the first sort of interaction with the story is this video. But reading the story first time, I want my kid, I read it out loud a lot of times and just tell my kids, the sound is tinnier than before. Okay, Claire, thank you. I'll try to work on that. So a lot of times, I have my students using whiteboards and taking notes, and they're doing all of these things and all of this sort of stuff. And I tend to like play up sometimes where I'll say, okay, everybody, you are not allowed to pick up a pencil. You are not allowed to pick up a pen. You're not allowed to do anything except for sit there and listen. And they're like, all right, you know, the students really like that. And so I will read the story to them, and I do want them to interact and show me that they're hearing me. So I'll ask them to nod and agree or disagree, or I'll ask them to go, ooh, or I'll ask them to go, oh, you know, and react to it. And it shows me that they're listening. So that's a good pre-reading thing too. If, you know, for instance, there's not a video that goes along with it, but every time that there is a reenactment video, I use that reenactment video as the pre-reading, and it gives them a really good idea of what's going on here.
And sometimes the kids will be, if you read it in sections, I don't stop and say, what does it say? But I will ask sometimes, are we good? Or, you know, any questions back to me. But, you know, the whole point is to have them hear the Latin, hear it in patterns, hear you say it in a way that's meaningful, and to take that stress off, do I know the right answer? And start to experience the Latin as Latin, you know? Martha, you have anything?
Yeah, please.
Well, and it's also important for the students to actually read the Latin as well.
Right.
Because the more they get those Latin words out of their mouths and listen to you read the Latin, the greater their comprehension becomes.
Absolutely.
So it's really a two-way street. It's the teacher reading the Latin, it's the students repeating the Latin and getting used to hearing those sentence patterns. That's what allows them to make that connection with the meaning. And
can I tell you, everybody, when I read a story, I tell my students, be ready to only understand about 50% of the story. You know, be ready to get the gist, and that's about it. And if you're getting the gist, and if you got 50% of the story on that first time hearing it, you did a great job. And sometimes I'll add the twist of like, okay, did anybody hear a word that they didn't know? And I'll just put them up on the board, you know, and then maybe read it again. We'll go through what they mean, and then I'll read it again. Yeah, so you know, it's all in the way that you frame things. And I think to a Latin student who is expecting, you know, to translate and all of this kind of thing and get every single little thing right and be very meticulous, that's a nerve-wracking thing of not knowing what something means. But you know, just warning them like, hey, we're just going for the main ideas here. Because now in the second opportunity is they can sit with it, or maybe sit with it with a partner, and I can ask some comprehension questions. I put this on a worksheet, or we do it out loud, and you can see that the first one is just, hey, okay, let's set the scene here. What's going on? We got Caecilius here. Where is he? Who is Hermogenes? Skipping down to 4 and 5. How does Hermogenes describe himself? Because the answer for number 1 was he's a Greek merchant. Well, how does he describe himself in 4 and 5? Well, he says, oh, I'm an honest merchant, and I'm looking for money. And I'll tell you right now, everybody, the hardest word in this whole story is quairo. And if you've taught out of Cambridge a couple of times, you know that that's absolutely true. Quairo is a toughie. So that might be one that I just write on the board, you know. Now notice that in my comprehension questions, I went ahead and I ask, hey, you know, can anyone translate that sentence? Tu nauem habes? And that's a little bit of a check. Like, do we remember it's to? You remember it's you, and habes there. And I might even kind of my addressing quairo might bleed down to this next sentence here, cor tu pecuniam quaeris, right? And, okay, can anyone figure out what he's asking there? So I'm asking just some straight questions there, and I'll go ahead and show you the other the last several questions. So again, I asked them to translate a to sentence. Now I'm asking them to translate an ego sentence. And now I'm just asking them, okay, what happens? You know, this is a little bit of an analysis question, right? Could we have figured that out? Could we have known that that was going to happen? And that really does get into, after we go over what happened, let's dig in and let's do the post reading and let's analyze a little bit. If you're Caecilius and you hear this guy say, oh, sum probus, ego semper pecuniam redo, like, is that a red flag, everybody? Is that, you know, when you hear that from that guy, is that your chance to go, maybe I should not lend this guy some money, you know? What part of 13 and 14 strikes you as a little odd? And what I'm getting at is in 13 and 14, it's that, you know, Caecilius hands over the money, he takes the money, but then notice the verb here, currit. He doesn't leave the forum, he doesn't go out of the forum, he doesn't walk away, he runs. And I'm hoping the students kind of picked up on that. So these are all opportunities, they're platforms for us to really just talk about the Latin a little bit more, dig into the story a little bit more. And then I'm always curious about this last sentence that he calls him to the court. How did he do that? Right? He ran away. He didn't get the money. How did Caecilius do that? And I don't have an answer for it. I've got a suggestion, but it's the kids always enjoy like coming up with a scenario. You can get into some crazy old Republic stuff and talk about going to someone's house and calling their name 3 times, and if they don't answer, then you take their next of kin or something. You could get some really crazy stuff going on there, but I just want them to think about it, and then I want to tease that next story in Basilica. So I know, of course, I went through the story part of that really fast, and we spent the majority of the last hour talking about those model sentences. And I'm going to go through the next part really, really fast too, and just say the about the language section. I think if we watch the listserv on Facebook enough, we know there are a lot of teachers whose MO is to present that about the language like first. And I'll tell you, my MO, everybody, is that I present the about the language section in the order in which it comes in the stage, which is about after the second story or so. It's about 3/4 of the way through. My MO, my goal is that by the time we get to the about the language page, the students already know it. And now it's just, okay, this thing that you already know, let's talk about that for a second. So it's review, it's consolidation. And now for the first time, after hearing ego blah, 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 O and to blah, 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 S, I mean, hundreds of times, now I'm finally going to say, oh yeah, that's called first person singular, second person singular. And I'll give it a name, but after they have mastered it. And I think that's a really, really important point. I think that's what the designers and the writers of Cambridge and what the philosophy of the reading method is. I think that's all intentional, and I want you to follow that as well. I want that about the language to be the consolidation piece, not the teaching piece.
Can I say one thing before you go on?
Yeah.
And I think that's why you spend so much time on the model sentences,
Yeah.
and you spend so much time doing it. You know, we did a whole webinar on don't get through the stories, get into the stories. Well, that's really true with the model sentences. Like, you know, you want them to be kinesthetically feeling those sentences and all that. And that's why Martha said you have to have them echo you, you know, and anytime you can get them to say something. And if they're hesitant, you can give them choices like you did with us, but just anything to get them completely involved so that when we come to the language point or, you know, anything else, they're going, oh yeah, now I see, you know, it's just a label.
Yeah, exactly. It should be old hat by this point. Absolutely. And I definitely, everybody don't want to take Martha and Ginny's job here, but I do want to recognize that it's 5 o'clock for me, but it's 8 o'clock for a lot of you on the East Coast. And I want to acknowledge that. And really that is the bulk of what I wanted to talk about today. And so just to say that we didn't mention the culture here, but my main MO with the culture is not to present that all as one separate piece, but to infuse that throughout. And so that by the time you get to the end and get to the culture, you know, you can read it and you're like, oh yeah, we talked about that. You know, that was here, that was there. And various teachers deal with the culture various ways, but I've always felt that that was effective when I had really learned it myself and was able to intersperse lessons with that cultural material. And so again, I want to acknowledge that now I've gone a little over the 2 minutes, everybody, and I'd be willing absolutely to stick around a little bit longer and answer questions. But I do want to throw it back to Martha and Ginny and just, you know, we've been at it for an hour and I know it's late on the East Coast. So I just want to thank you all for being here, and I hope it was helpful. I hope it was worth your time. And I just hope you have a great year. It's a tough year, everybody. And you know, I just hope that we're all getting back to normal, and I hope that you're killing it in the classroom. So thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah, I think, you know, people will really appreciate the time you took to show all the different pieces. So we thank you very much for being painstaking in a good way, you know. And as you commented to us yesterday, this wasn't about, hey, this is how you plan out a lesson. This is how you do the lesson, you know. And thank you so very much. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or call them out.
And if you need to leave,
Or
I won't be
email
offended.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lori,
Yeah,
Lori has a question. Lori,
I have
you're
a
muted
question.
though. Okay, go ahead.
And mine might be specific to my situation. I last year, first time fully embraced the Cambridge book. Before that, I had various experiences blended with other curricula. I went all in, and I'm so grateful for the consolidated resource from Facebook. Thank you so much. Like y'all, everybody who contributed, has changed my life teaching. I think in the middle of a pandemic, I did the best teaching I've ever done. But
Wow.
that said, I teach on a block schedule. And I am finding that to the pacing of the block schedule to be really challenging. We have got an alternating block, so green, gold, and it's a 90-minute class. I don't want them to be bored. I don't want to fly through the stuff. I want to give them lots of repetition, but I cannot ask, who is this the whole class period? I think that they would just lose their marbles with me. So I'm just trying to figure out the pacing of it. I finished both the red and the blue book last year with pretty good success, but I still feel like I could do way more on the reinforcement. Any guidance on pacing? So yours is an 8 class period or so. Mine tends to be 5, which is technically more than yours. I don't know.
I think, and this isn't just specific to Latin. I think when you've got bottoms and chairs for 90 minutes, you really do have to be cognizant of the ratio of how much am I doing versus how much are you doing, right? And you have to intersperse that. You have to like break it up into like 15-minute segments, right? And honestly, like I have, I actually this year don't have, for my 8th graders, I don't have 5 50-minute class periods. I have 2 80-minute class periods and then a 50-minute. And for the 2 80-minute class periods, I give them like a 3-minute break in the middle of it. Like I try to do like 60 or 70% of the class, give them a 3-minute break. And I tell them like, get up, get the blood moving, stretch a little bit, and then let's get down and finish out strong. But I think you have to be really aware of the I do, you do ratio and the amount of input that you're giving versus the time that they can grab hold of it and produce something or just work on something independently, right? Doug Lamoff, Teach Like a Champion, writes about student teacher ratio, and I think that's what I'm always thinking about whenever I have that block schedule. But it's tough, Lori. Yeah, Jenny.
Lori, I also think a couple of things in your cases, that 90 minutes is really 2 class periods. I mean, so there's no way you can do the same thing, and nor should you. I mean, I always melded in all my culture, current culture, other cultures. So, you'd ask about the front picture and you'd ask more questions about whatever the topic is. Now, 4 is a little weird because it's about the town. That one's a little weird. But frankly, I would do stuff where you did what Patrick did, and then I would get them out of their seats going and matching sentences with characters or people, find this. And then I'd go on, I'd do some kind of a brain break, and then I'd go on to the next activity, which might be reading the first story. You may be already there.
We typically do. I typically do the model sentences, and I think I don't spend enough time on the model sentences, but I go in order of the stage. So we typically
spend a little more time getting them, as Patrick said, involved in that.
I like that. Thank you.
Because the more you do, when things get harder, first of all, one of the things I think everybody has to remember is you're laying groundwork, not just in the Latin passage sentence structures, but you're laying groundwork into what they'll take as important. So fussing with the photos and the drawings sends that message to them. Showing them that I expect you to be able to produce in a casual way, identify is something I'm going to expect all along. Reading out loud in Latin, I'm going to expect it all along. Because all of a sudden you get to a stage and you say, I'm going to do this. And the kids are like, you know what? I've been sitting on my butt all this time and you've been doing all the work. So you want to transmit to them early on. ACTFL says first you start with a word and then a list of words and then a phrase. Well, you do the same with behaviors, if that helps. Anybody else? Thoughts, comments, suggestions, ideas, questions? Oh, Evan had a question earlier, Patrick. How do you go to the no homework? How do you reinforce if you don't give them homework?
Okay, so the more general answer is that there is a lot of research out there that says they don't need the reinforcement outside of class. You know, if you're giving them the right enforcement in class, if you get them the right input and the right repetition in class, they just don't need it. The way that I'm able to do that, especially with that group of kids, the 8th graders that I teach, those like unit 1, unit 2, that kind of stuff, is they have tablets, and so I use a learning management system, and so I can give them a quiz in class. In my other grades, where I do give them a little bit of homework, I use that learning management system to, again, it's never like, hey, do 1 through 10 and, you know, copy out your answers, whatever. It's, hey, take this quiz, and the quiz is 5 minutes long. But so the kids that really know what they're doing, it'll take them 3 minutes to show me that they really know what they're doing. The kids that don't know what they're doing, they can take that quiz a few times over, and it's different versions of the same quiz. And so they get, you know, a much needed 10 minutes of practice. And I get a lot of data about what they do and don't know. But yeah, with those 8th graders, the one-to-one technology has really helped. But I'll tell you straight up that most of the research on homework over the last 20 years has basically just resolved that they don't need it. You know, if you just use class time effectively, it's fine.
I used to say, give me a hard 44 and you're out the door.
Yeah, that's great.
Like, I don't want, and then I'd say, when they say, oh, do we have to? Yeah, we do, because, and I do the analogy with sports. You know, you can show up for the game and not have practiced all week, and you might be successful. But if you've done all your drills and you've practiced your swings or your kicks or whatever it is, and you've practiced your give and go, then they become innate for you, and then you don't think twice about it. So, you know, that was always one of my things. And Evan, if someone didn't understand, I didn't go after them as, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You know, you try to figure out a way to find out why people are tripping over something or don't remember it. And I do not believe vocabulary is the kids' job all by themselves. I entirely believe that my job is to teach and honor vocabulary and hold them to vocabulary and play games with vocabulary, which is a great brain break. Okay, you have 2 minutes. Name 15 words that have to do with blah, blah, blah. It's so simple. And, you know, most of my career, I'm just that old. We didn't have a computer in our classroom. So, you know, we
take any of the illustrations, any of the drawings in the stage, and plop it on a worksheet, plop it on the board, and be like, label, go. Yep, right. And then it's topical, you know.
Or talk to your neighbor and list 5 things. Give each kid a character. Find me sentences in the book that describe this character. Caecilius est pater, Caecilius est Argentarius, and you know, and some you'll find 5, and some like you won't. You know, 5 things Metella will do or won't do, or doesn't do. I shouldn't say won't do. I mean, yeah.
I found the no homework to be a behavior deterrent too. I tell the kids, my job is to teach you these 90 minutes. Your job is to learn. If we're all doing our job, nobody wants to take it home. So Absolutely. If they get off task, all I have to say is, are you doing your job? And then they know that means we've got to work so we don't take it home.
That's a great question.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, yeah. Lori, I'm such a fan of yours.
I'm such a fan of yours.
Right. Really well done, Patrick. And thank you everybody for being here this evening. Thank you for staying late with us. And we hope you'll come back to future webinars coming up the next 3 months, and have a good evening, everybody.
Definitely come to one on Caecilius's house. It's going to be talked to, we're going to be spoken to by a woman who's invested a lot of time into the preservation. And if you want to have a chit chat, then come next week on Tuesday. That's going to be sit down with everybody and just say, this is what's going on. All right. Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome. I love Evan's comment. This will really help my students. That makes me feel good.
I'm telling you, we have to give Evan some kind of a certificate. We could certify that he has grown and learned so much in the last
I know.
year.
Yeah,
that's right.
Never missed a webinar the entire year.
He's like a T-shirt or something.
Yeah.
You know, when you go give blood, you know, they give you a shirt or something.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, we used to have a little game going, whether he was going to ask me for a certificate first or whether I was just going to send him one first.
Score
right, well-
was 6-6. No.
I
think
got.
that went really well.
Oh, good. I got worried, to be honest. I got worried that the model census thing was going on too long. And I mean, I know that was kind of my MO of, you just repeat and input. But I saw the clock tick into like 45 and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Honestly, that's
that's
what we wanted.
exactly what it takes. And I think you just hit it spot on. I
Thank
think
you. Good. Thank you very much. I'm
that's
really
think
happy
about
to
it,
do that.
what I
somebody's- yeah.
envisioned.
Yeah, somebody had even still said, what does it mean to read?
Yeah.
So, the fact that that was still a question shows that even more digging deep has to happen,
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the
All right.
opportunity. This was really fun. And
Yes.
yeah, I just, I learned a lot doing this too, it's great.
Oh,
So
good.
one of
And,
the things
oh,
sorry,
go
one of
ahead.
the things I am thinking about doing with this, which is going to be funny because it is a pear deck, is maybe putting some of this into Edpuzzle with questions that a teacher can answer, like do as a review themselves, like, because I would love to see us have some of these things as self-paced kind of things for a teacher,
Yeah,
we'll
I like
see.
it. I like it.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right, sir. Have a good night. Go eat dinner.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great just to see you and talk to y'all.